What's that?
No, I think that's even better. I think we should go with
That's
that.
the end of the day. How the pros do it.
So we're here, very fortunate to get the opportunity to speak with Mr. BDC, Mr. Pro Drift Champion.
I'll go for that, it sounds good.
Yeah, it sounds good, doesn't it? We're going to go for that. Mr. Stephen McConnell.
Yeah.
You're a real big deal in drifting at the moment. And now, you're here at Crimond, which I heard somebody call the armpit of Scotland earlier, which I'm not very impressed with, whoever you are. But yeah, what's that about?
We got an invite up to this event by James a couple of months ago, and we were fortunate when it didn't clash with any of our championships for the rest of the season, because this year we're participating in both Drift League, the drifting side of things, and we're competing in the Formula G championship. So we're going back a little bit to our roots and actually going to focus on Gymkhana a little this year as well. So we've got a very busy season, but we got an invite up to this event. It didn't clash, and sometimes we take events a little too seriously, and everything's competition, and it's a race for podiums. So it's actually good to come to a fun event. And we used to have the E36 and we could take the lower powered car to events like this, but we've only got the S13 now, so it sometimes can be one of those ones where you're like, do we really take a pro car to a grassroots event? But it's one of the ones that there's quite a few people doing that now. There's maybe 4 or 5 actual pro competition cars that come to events like Crimond and Golspie, but they're a lot of fun, and it's events like this are why we've done drifting. Like me and you have known each other for 7 years or something like that. Like, and that's we get into drifting.
Not by the right name, but we've known each other.
There's another Stuart Cowie.
That's a niche thing. I may have to explain another video, but
But it's a lot of fun coming to events like this. It reminds you why we are actually doing the sport in the first place. Believe it or not, coming to an event like this, I think you'd asked this earlier, do you still get nervous? And the answer is yes. I think if there's a point where I don't get nervous in the car, then we should stop doing it because it's no longer fun.
No longer exciting.
I still get totally nervous, and actually if an event like this, there's sometimes a little bit more pressure because you're turning up and people are seeing the pro car. People like James are on the microphone, they're going to big you up saying like where you've been around the world competing. So if anything of an event like this is where you actually sometimes feel a wee bit more pressure because you turn up knowing I'm in qualifying now, we better take like a 1, 2, 3 or something like that in qualifying, otherwise they'll be like, well, he's isn't he?
I find events like this are like really good, considering it's like local people from around coming to see something that they probably haven't seen a lot of, and they're coming in and seeing probably maybe the first time seeing drifting. And I know, and I don't know what the attendance was today, but I know on a really warm day like last time there was a massive attendance.
James can plan. James is many things, but as an event planner, he's shit hot. He can bring a crowd of people. He can hype up events like this in the right way online and attract people to come and go out their house on a Saturday. James is actually what people. The bigger competitions actually need folk like that can actually get the people through the gate, because that's where you're going to get new people interested in the sport. You're going to get young people addicted to it. I don't necessarily like talking on camera, but I could talk all day about drifting, and I like being able to meet people, and we let kids sit in the car and just kind of, they all love it, and I was like, that's brilliant, because in a couple of years time I was like, they might go like, oh, I want to get into track driving.
Ruin their life, yeah.
Well, I always end up saying to the parents, I was like, I might have cost you a lot of money, by the way, because if he gets into drifting, this is going to cost you a fortune. But I always advertise it very well. I like to try and promote the sport as best we can, because drifting is still probably, in my opinion, the cheapest form of motorsport you can get into. My best advice for people looking to get into the sport is go out and buy, it used to be an E36, it's now a 46 just with prices, but a £500 E46 325 does exist. You can buy them, pay your mate £200 to weld a diff at a hydro and go have fun. Go to your local tyre garage, take all the used tyres away, go have fun. It'll cost you nothing bar the changeovers and getting rid of the old ones, but you can do drifting cheap. And that's why we get into it, that's why we started it. Unfortunately, our nature means that we take everything too far, and then that way you try Scottish level SDC competing, then you move to national level, like Drift Cup it was at the time, then it just spirals out of control.
I've got this funny theory that if you started up wheelbarrow racing, right, the first day everybody would turn up with a run-of-the-mill garden, centre, wheelbarrow. But by the second meeting, there would be camber, there'd be weight reduction, there would be fancy slick tyres, there'd be the handles. I think with any form of motorsport, it slowly goes up unless there's something holding it back.
We're our own worst enemy when it comes to stuff like this, because it is a case of right now, especially with drifting, because drifting's had a massive shake-up in the last year, just with BDC going under. BDC's been on the go for 20 years, so I'm absolutely gutted about that. Love BDC, it was an amazing event. It is a time where there's an amazing opportunity you've got two main championships now, you've got Drift League and Drift Pro, so there's the opportunity there for the sport to succeed, but it's been a bit of a bad time for drifting, so it's one of the ones that we're our own worst enemy, because we talk about the glory days. Everybody goes like, oh, like how many times a week do you see a post online about going back to the Driftland glory days? And it's like, those days don't exist, and it's our fault they don't exist. I was like, because you at one point had 300 horsepower, then I went to 305, you went to 320, and we just kept one up each other. So we're our own worst enemies. It's our fault. We can go back to those days like at one point, but we'll probably all be retired at that point.
Yeah, and if you end up going back to that, a lot of the people aren't so happy because they've had this big hype. And now it's back down.
Yeah, because when we still had D36, I was like, oh, we'll keep that as a practice car. But having something like this ruins you, because it's such an awesome car. So if you go back to something that's not got the power, the grip, the lock, it's not as much fun. Like that's a blast to drive that car. Anybody could drive that. Anybody could jump in that. It's that well set up. But bastard, like she can't be an E36 touring though.
Surely you put in a bit of work into that, Stephen. You can't just give it all to the car.
100%. We've been doing this long enough for 7 years, so we may as well be good at something. I like to take pride in this. Is the only thing I can say we are actually good at. It's like I wish I found it earlier in life, because we never started drifting until 26. We were always into other forms of motorsport. Got to Crail Raceway, so we started really with quarter-mile drag racing. That kind of then progressed into sprints, some auto solos, done a little bit of hill climbs with the S2000 and Evo that we had, but I couldn't afford to run that car, like I could only do it a couple of times a year, and then we jumped into the drifting. But I wish I found it years beforehand in that, and now we've got our wee boy in that as well, so I've got the plan in the next couple of years to get wee Max into it and get him a car.
Ruin his life.
Well, he can have this, I can retire. Quite literally, it is my retirement plan.
Now, before I leave you, I'm going to ask about the last round of, was it Drift?
Drift League at Pembrey was the last round.
Drift
of
League at Pembrey.
Round. That was a new track for us. The very southern point of Wales. We've been to a couple of the Welsh tracks, Anglesey, Rednal, but we've never been down to like the proper valleys and that. Like, it was a terrible drive. We should have went the motorways, but Gordon's like, no, the roads will be fine, and couldn't get the transit up the hills. But it was a fast track. It's used for truck racing, so like we were like 90 mile an hour drifting, and you might have seen in the socials that we've got like photos of the car one wheeling, so It's almost like a mini Ibiza track where there's an actual jump from the infield to the outfield, and the whole car was lifting off the ground just because of how soft we had everything set to try and like get a bit of pace that day. Car was absolutely flying at it, so for a new round we finished 5th place, which is a good position for us for the rest of the season, because one thing that benefits us in terms of championship points is we do tend to be fairly consistent. So there's a lot of drivers out there that might first place, but they might then 24th place the next round in that. So it kind of plays in our favour with being consistent, and that's what's gave us good results over the last couple of years. So 5th place is all right. At the time, I'm obviously like, I should have won that, and I wanted to get through one more time in that as well. Because even an event like this, that was a one more time in the final with we Stu. Neil came up to us there and he's like, "You disappointed?" I was like, "Of course, I wanted to win. I wanted to beat him." But that's a brilliant, like that was a brilliant battle. And again, you talk about it, it's only crimined, but it's like the car has black rubber pinned all the way around it for wee Stu. Wee Stu car I'm getting excited to get out talk about it. I took his mirror off, I've rubbed the full length of the car, I've destroyed one of his alloys. There's a yellow paint up and down the side of it, and we're competing next week in Wigan. So I'm like, I was actually on the track going, why are we doing this? I'm like, why does this matter so much? But like wee Stu, I've been racing with him for years. Brilliant driver. He's got his big car in that now as well, similar to us, where he's progressed through lower powered stuff, and he's now kind of got a big boy car, and both him and myself have a good opportunity to actually get good results with weapons like these.
There's a last thing I want to ask you, and I'm just having to think about how I'm going to word this, because something that really interests me about drifting and watching drift in the last couple of years, because I've been stopped, is that you can be as consistent as you want. You drift round and round and round, but you'll always land up in that middle spot. And the likes of yourself seem to compete at that extra bit. And it's just a case of, in drifting nowadays, you can't just go out and run a qualifying line. It has to be
gone are the days of safe runs and that as well. So like back in the SDC days when me and you were competing, you would go out and you'd be like, I'll run a safe first run. That doesn't exist nowadays. There's like either you've paid the money to be there and it costs a lot of money to get you there, so you've committed a lot of your work, your time. So it's a case of nowadays, like almost for the word go. So I'll be a bit of bully of the day, but straight away from the word go, even today, like Stephen Black, like it was the second run, and I pushed him around the track. But then I came back and I was like, I shouldn't really be doing that. I was like, we're first thing, and I'm trying to push people around the track, but it's unfortunate. It's the name of the game. Getting into competitions nowadays, you need to go for it. Otherwise, what's the point? And there's that many people out there that are now taking the sport so seriously, and like ourselves, which I'm very proud of, and we have a really good team. Paul's amazing support. He's like how good the pit's looking at, and we have a very basic setup where an old transit, a Brian James trailer, and an old gazebo, but we try and make it look professional and try to be professional at events, and it pays off. People recognise that, and that's actually where we've got sponsors. So like the only reason I can run this car is because of sponsors. So like the Treads are paying our tyres. I could not do it without their support. Even today, I was supplied with Uniroyal Rain Sports, and that's what got us to the finals. So I know everybody's going to say that with their sponsors, like I can't do it without the sponsors, but I literally can't. I'm a good job, like I'm an engineer, I've got a good job. However, it's not running a motorsport professional car. Good job. So I work for them. I don't own them. I don't own Rolls Royce.
Right. So what I'll finish up with.
Cut before your next question. He wants to start that up and move it.
Just 5 seconds. Right. We'll finish this up. What I need is social media.
Social media for us is our main channel is Steve McConnel Motorsport on Facebook. We've got our website where you can purchase merch. Is nice. Keep an eye on the page actually, because we're going to be selling stuff at events as well. We can get posted out to you. We've got our Instagram, TikTok and everything. Main place though is definitely Facebook. We've got all the kind of socials. Even had an attempt at YouTube, but we never really got good results with YouTube. Big fan of your YouTube channel.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you. You heard that. It's an exclusive. You heard that here at Pro 307.
I was like, give me more updates. He's a cracking welder.
Shite driver, but a cracking welder.
Really, actually hoping one day he puts the car up for sale. Sell that. Sell that and upgrade.
Maybe need to get a drive here.
But I like the best place to follow is in Steve McConnell Motorsport on Facebook. Is like the platform that does really well for us, which sucks because it's the one that you don't get paid for. Every other one, if it would like, we've got videos that. Well, what actually really sucks with the social media nowadays is you go to an effort of paying for good photos, paying for good media with videos for events. You put that up and it gets 10 likes. The random video that we put up a random video skidding at one of our sponsors, Track Ready. We're just up to get some brakes fitted, literally skidding about a yard in a not very high quality video, and the video goes 350,000 views. And you're like, how does that work? But it does do well in that. So then again, I'm proud of how we built that up over the years, thanks to folk in the team. Like they've all got access to it, so it means that while I'm out in the car, people are posting and keeping everybody up to date, which is a brilliant thing to have. And everybody that follows us supports us, and it's brilliant to actually go online at the end of the day and go through your phone and go, oh, that's everybody's cheering for us. Hopefully
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much for speaking to me, Stephen.